Today we're going to talk about how to find the a, b, and c values when you're looking at a quadratic equation. So we're going to start off by talking about where these a, b, and c values are located. So the number that's in front of your x squared is going to be your a value. The number that's in front of your x, or the coefficient to your x, is going to be your b value. And your constant, or your value that doesn't have a variable with it, is going to be your c value. So looking at this equation that I have here in the middle of my screen, I'm going to label my a value, which is going to be the number that is in front of my x squared. Now, I don't have a number in front of the x squared, and when we don't see a number, but we do have that variable, we know that the number that's in front of that is a 1. Then I'm going to look and I'm going to figure out my b value. So if I look here for b, I'm looking for the number that's the coefficient to the variable x, or the number that's in front of x, and I'm going to take the sign that goes with it. So since it's minus 10x, we're going to say b is negative 10. Then the last thing I'm going to look at is my c, which is my constant. My c is going to be the value that does not have a variable with it, and in this equation my c value is going to be 9. Let's look at a couple more examples. Alright, so starting out on our first equation here on the left, we know that a is going to be the value that's the coefficient to the x squared. The number that I see in front of my x squared, I don't see a number, I see a negative sign, so that means it's going to be negative 1. My b value is going to be the coefficient for my x, which I'm highlighting there. So my b value is going to be negative 2. And then my c value is going to be my constant, or my value that does not have a variable with it, and that's going to be negative 1. All right, over here on the right, again, a is going to be the value that's the coefficient to the x squared, which is negative 6. b is going to be the value that's the coefficient to the x, so in this case, negative 4. And then the c value is going to be my constant, which is the number that does not have a variable, in this case, negative 5. Okay, moving on to a few more. Starting on the left, my a value is the number that's the coefficient to the x squared. It's positive 3. My b value, the coefficient to the x, since it's minus 6, we're going to say negative 6. And then my c value, which is my constant, or my value that does not have a variable with it, in this problem is 4. Again, moving over here to the right. Now this one's a little bit tricky because our equation is not written in standard form. It's not got the highest exponent coming first. So I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to move that positive x squared to the front. Since my 2x is positive, it's going to be plus 2x and then plus 1. So I simply rewrote that equation to make sure that my x squared came first. So now I can label my parts. My a is my coefficient to my x squared. Since I don't see a number there, again, we know that's 1. My b value is the coefficient to the x, which I can see here is positive 2, so I'm going to put 2. And then my c is my constant, or my value that does not have a variable with it, and in this case it's 1. I have 2 more examples we're going to look at. These 2 problems are a little bit tricky because I don't have an x squared, an x, and a constant in these problems. They're missing pieces, so we're going to talk about what we write there. So I'm still going to start with a. My a is my value that is in front of my x squared. So on this problem on the left, my a equals 3. When I get to b, there is no b value. There's no value with an x. So I put a 0. And for c, again, I don't have a constant, so I put a 0. So you can still list numbers for those values, and you're going to need that moving forward as we work with quadratic equations. So we would have a is 3, b is 0, and c is 0. On the left here, we have a, which again is the value in front of our x squared. Since we don't see a number there, we know it's 1. Then I go to my b value. I don't have an x, so my b value is going to be 0. Then I go to my c value, and I look here, I do have a constant. It's -9. Since it's -9, I treat that as -9.